Welcome to the video on the problem solving writing assignment part 2, where you're supposed to make a prediction or an estimate as to how much it will cost to haul topsoil yourself versus having the company haul the topsoil. So we're kind of doing a little cost analysis, and this just requires some estimates that don't have to be perfect, of course, but will give us an idea of which is a little cheaper. So the idea is you're supposed to calculate how much topsoil you'll need first, and that's really what this is about, is how do you calculate the amount of topsoil needed. So this is a picture of a home where the lawn is already in. It's kind of an extravagant home, as you can tell, but the point is, how do we kind of give a reasonable estimate of how much topsoil you'd need with all this, where the area is where there's grass, and or if you were going to put in new topsoil and sod, for example. So one of the first things you need to do is to kind of get a sense of, well, how much grass is there, and to calculate area, I prefer to use, it'd be nice to do rectangles, and you could break this into a bunch of tiny little rectangles here and maybe some bigger ones, but we're just estimating. So I'm going to cut this into rectangles that are reasonable, not perfect, but I'm going to minimize the amount of calculating I have to do to find this area. So I'm going to take and say, well, this looks like a big rectangle here, but there's a chunk here inside and there's a chunk here. And, well, I've got all this grass in this corner. So if I take let's say I draw a line through here, if I drew a line right along here, for example, I'd be having this whole chunk is not going to need topsoil, nor is that, but I'd be leaving out this portion. So I guess I'm going to draw a line where I think the part of that I'm going to leave out, I'm going to count this grass and say this will fill in for this area and this area. So I'm going to draw the line right about here. I'm going to try and make it look like a rectangle, even though that's a curve. I'm going to make it look kind of like a rectangle and say, okay, right about here, I guess. And for the sake of just estimating, I'm going to make a darker line so you can see that better. Okay, so now clearly it looks like the lawn keeps going here. The picture got cut off. But all this lawn in here, now there's eaves here. So the lawn underneath there and all this lawn here, this area where if we were to put new grass in and we want new topsoil, for example, I'm thinking that all this area would make up for this that I'm losing. So I don't need to get topsoil for this if I get topsoil for all this area. So all this is made up and this is covered, and I know this doesn't come all out here, but I'm just making an estimate. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to just kind of count this as a big rectangle right here, and that's what I'm going to find, that area. That's one rectangle which will cover this and all of this area. So that would be one rectangle, and I'll measure that. Now I have inches on my ruler and I have centimeters. I tend to use centimeters. So I'll measure this. That is almost exactly 13 centimeters. So I'll put that on there. 13 centimeters on that direction. And then this distance, that is pretty close to 5 centimeters, almost exactly 5 centimeters. So I'm going to write 5 centimeters this way. Now, of course, that's not the actual size of the lawn. We'll have to go and look at the scale over here, and we'll get that. So anyway, that covers this and all of that area, and maybe some of this. Now, this little strip along here, we're going to need topsoil for, and this portion here, and a little bit right here. When I look at this whole strip along here looks like it would kind of fill up where the driveway is, where we wouldn't need any topsoil. So if I could kind of imagine this portion over here filling in all that driveway there, all the way to here. See, all this. If all this would fill all that in, then all I'd really have to do is get a rectangle over this in this area, which covers all that lawn, and maybe right to about here. It looks like this is the neighbor's driveway, so it's probably about halfway. Right about here. This rectangle, and there's the road, so right from here, this whole strip, if this filled all that in, then I could say, well, that would go to about here, let's say. So this rectangle out in front, all along here, that rectangle would be, that's enough topsoil because it would fill that in too. So I'm going to say, let's look, that's about 12 centimeters from here to here. So I'll write 12 centimeters along that side. And then over here, this is almost 4 centimeters, almost exactly. So this is about 4 centimeters. So now I need to do a conversion, because I want to know how many either square feet would cover the surface or square yards. So if we take a close look at this, there's a little legend down here, and you might be able to read that this, maybe you can't see, that says 20 feet from here to here. That distance is 20 feet. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to say, okay, I use centimeters, so I'll use the centimeters portion of the ruler right here. And that is, on my ruler, that's right on 1.5 centimeters. You might not be able to see that, but this 20 feet is equivalent to 1.5 centimeters. Right here, 1.5. So now to get these two areas, these two rectangular region, I have every 1.5 centimeters I use is going to be equal to 20 feet. Okay, so on this I've got a big rectangle here that's 5 centimeters by 13 centimeters, but it's really obviously a lot bigger than that. So I want to take my 5 centimeters and change that to feet, take 13 centimeters and change it to feet. So I'm going to have to do a conversion for this and a conversion for that. And of course, I'm going to multiply it by, I'm going to take that 5 centimeters and multiply it by this conversion factor. 20 feet is equivalent to 1.5 centimeters. So the centimeters will reduce, and I'll get 5 times 20, which is 100. I can do that in my head. And then 100 divided by 1.5. This is huge. 100 divided by 1.5. That gives me, that's 66.6 repeating. So I'll just say 66, maybe I'll say 67 feet. That's a little too precise. 67 feet is the 5 centimeters. The 13 centimeters, that I'm going to do another, again, convert that 13 centimeters, multiply that by 20 feet for every 1.5 centimeters. Our centimeters will reduce and we'll get feet. So that's 20 times 13 divided by 1.5, and that is 173.3. I'll just say 173 feet. So if I want that one rectangle, that's just for one rectangle, this rectangle right here, this region right here, which really includes this and a little bit of that to cover up the parts that are missing, then if I wanted to calculate that in square feet, I could do that. 67 times 173 is 11,591 square feet. Well, if I want that in square yards, because I need my volume in square yards, or cubic yards, I need to find the cubic yards for how much topsoil I'm going to need. So I can take that 11,591 square feet, and note, to convert, since 1 foot, since 1 yard is equal to 3 feet, when you square those, if you look this up, 1 square yard should be equal to, when you square that, you get 9 square feet. So to convert square feet to square yards, we need to use this unit rate. So we need, of course, square feet in the denominator, which is 9 square feet, is equivalent to 1 square yard. So basically, we divide this by 9. Some people mistakenly divide it by 3, thinking they're converting square feet to square yards. But no, there's 9 square feet in 1 square yard. So we take that 11,591 and we just divide by 9, and that will give us square yards. That's equal to 1,200, and this says 87.88. So I'm going to say 1,288 square yards, and I'll write that yards with a little square there. Now that's just one of the rectangles. The other rectangle was 4 centimeters by 12 centimeters. Right there. 4 by 12, this rectangle here, which includes all the rest. This extra part here I kind of counted in there. So this, again, it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. So that's one of the rectangles. The other one was, I'll write that down, 12 centimeters by 4 centimeters on the picture. Now I'm going to multiply this by 20 over 1.5, just like I converted up here. I'm going to multiply this by 20 over 1.5. So 20 divided by 1.5, that's 13.3 feet. And 4, oops, that's not right. That's not right. It's 12 times 20 divided by 1.5. I forgot the 12. So write that. It's 12 times 20 feet per 1.5 centimeters. And that's 160 feet. And then 4 times, right, that's 4 centimeters by 20 over 12. So 4 times 20 divide 1.5. That is 53.3 repeating, so I'll just round that off to 53 feet. So if you wanted to calculate the area in square feet, so we have square feet and square yards here, and that 160 times 53, that's 8,480 square feet. And to convert square feet to square yards, remember we multiply 1 square yard over 9. 1 square yard over 9 square feet. So we can just really divide that by 9. Right? 8,480 divided by 9 should give us the number of square yards. So divide by 9, and we get, that's about 942 repeating. So I'm going to say 942 square yards. And so the entire yard, the entire lawn, if we want it in square feet, we'll add 11,591 to 8,480. Oh, that's almost exactly 20,000 square feet. So I could do that if I wanted, or 1,288 square yards plus 942 square yards. I'm going to do it in square yards because I think that's a little easier. 1,288 plus 942. This is pretty large. The total yard is 2,230 square yards. And if you did it in square feet, I'll do that 11,591 plus the 8,480. And that's 20,071 square feet. Okay. So once we get either one of these, I'm going to use the square yards. I think that's the easiest one, but I'll do square feet as a backup for you, in case you want to do it that way. Square yards is the surface. For volume of soil, it tells us that it's 4 inches deep. So, to get the volume, I have to take the area times the depth. That's the area of the yard times how deep the topsoil is. Well, this is in square yards, 2,230 square yards. This unit needs to be in yards, but they tell us in the problem that it's only 4 inches. So we have it 4 inches is the depth. Well, to use this with the square yards, I need to convert inches to yards. So 4 inches, when you convert that, 1 yard is 36 inches. So to cancel inches, or reduce inches, the 4 and the 36, that reduces to 1/9. That's 1/9 of a yard. 4 inches is just 1/9 of a yard. So you put 1/9 there. And that, if we take the 2230 and multiply it by 1/9, that's dividing by 9, we get 247.7 repeating. So I'm going to say 248, that's cubic yards. When you multiply square yards by yards, we get cubic yards. That's how much topsoil you'll need. Total topsoil. And that's an estimate. It might be a little more or less. And then you'll have to find out how much the truck will haul. So you could quickly and easily calculate how many big truckloads they could take. And then your truck is smaller than a big dump truck, so it'll take a lot more trips doing that. Okay, if you did square feet, you'd have to take this 20,071 square feet and multiply it by the number of feet. Well, 4 inches, 4 out of 12 would be 1/3 of a foot. So we'd take the 20,071 and divide it by 3 to convert that to feet. And that is 6,690.3 repeating. That would be cubic feet. And then how would you change cubic feet to cubic yards? So if you did it this way, if you wanted to do it with cubic feet, now I showed you up here that 1 yard is 3 feet, 1 square yard is 9 square feet. So 1 cubic yard, you have to multiply, you have to cube this, raised to the 3rd power and this to the 3rd power. That's 27 cubic feet. Okay, so we'll have to use 6690 cubic feet, multiply that by 1 cubic yard over 27 cubic feet, which basically divides by 27. So we'll take that 6690, divide it by 27, and that gives me 247.7 also. So it will give you that when you do the conversion. So that shows you 2 different ways you can do that. And just make a reasonable estimate. You know, you don't have to worry about the corners necessarily. Just kind of estimate, you know, take out a little portion here that would make up for this portion. And so you can do the same thing on the problem. That's all for this video. I hope that helps.